Hey lovely friends, my name is Emily and welcome to my channel Tracking Ed. I am really excited to talk about today's topic in this video because it's something that I would have watched 3 years ago. I wanted as much help as I could get as a solo female young traveler. So today I want to share a few tips that will help you out if you're entering into a similar situation. Let's jump right into it. Also, a little disclaimer, all of this information is shared in no particular order. So my first tip for you today is to fake it till you make it. Sometimes that can be a bit of a controversial mindset to take, but if you're traveling young and solo, there's going to be times where you just feel really out of your depth and you won't know what to do, and it's going to be really difficult. In that moment, you need to make a decision to just go for it, even when you don't know what you're doing. This is all about having confidence even when you don't feel confident at all. This attitude can be really helpful, especially when you need to talk with strangers or you're in a country with a foreign language. And the good thing is, when you look like you know what you're doing, some people just won't try to bother you. This can be really helpful when you're trying to stay safe, especially if you're walking alone at night. But that's a topic for later on in the video. Now, if you're traveling solo, chances are you're going to be staying at a hostel when you're overseas or traveling domestically. It's pretty easy to get to know people when you're in a hostel because you're in confined quarters. But some other tips I have is to definitely stay in a shared dorm room, whether that's mixed or just female or just male, whoever you are watching this. Do whatever makes you feel most comfortable. B, I'd highly recommend taking part in hostel activities and choose the hostel you're going to stay at accordingly. If you know you want to meet people, don't go somewhere that has a low rating online of atmosphere. You want to be somewhere with a really good atmosphere where people are open to meeting each other. These types of places tend to attract a lot more solo travelers and you're bound to make friends. Taking part in nighttime activities is also a really good way to get out and about at nighttime and still feel safe because you're with other people. There's safety in numbers. Another good thing about taking part in activities is that you never really feel alone. You might be thinking that if you're traveling solo, you're always going to be alone. I can tell you that this is not the case. In fact, you're probably going to want to spend time alone when you come home. You are going to meet so many amazing people on the road or in hostels, and sometimes you even end up traveling with them, or you meet back up later across the other side of the world. Either way, you're going to have an incredible experience going solo. I'm getting gushy really fast, so I'm just going to keep moving along. My other tip is, if you want to be in a group at all times, but you still are traveling solo because of circumstances or personal choice, hop on a group tour. There are so many amazing companies that offer incredible tours. I guarantee you'll have a great time and you're never going to end up being alone either. However, following on from that, some of the best memories I have from traveling is when I've had no travel plans, I've kept things open, and I've just gone to places as I felt like it, or places that I've also heard about from other travelers. It can be daunting to have a section of your trip with no plans, but I promise you, you'll be glad that you did it at the end of the day because you have no pre-expectations. So definitely keep some of those travel dates open. My next tip is to stay somewhere with Wi-Fi. Now, I know that sounds really basic and everywhere has Wi-Fi these days, but it's really important to check that they do. And why is this? Well, leading on to my next tip is that you need to contact your family and friends as often as possible. They're going to be wondering about you and they want to know that you're okay. So if you're staying somewhere with Wi-Fi, it's super easy just to flick them a message or to even video chat at any time of day. Now, you don't have to contact them every day, depending on the relationship that you have with your parents. I know for me, it was a case of every week or every 2 weeks, giving them a call, letting them know that you're okay. But no matter where you are or who you're in contact with, somebody must know where you're traveling at all times. This is just for your own safety. If you're traveling longer term, perhaps more than over 3 weeks to 6 months, even a year, I'd highly recommend taking out some life days. Now, what do I mean by this? When I traveled solo for 6 months, I found it was really important to set aside a full day, perhaps every week or every fortnight, just to do life admin. I'm talking about washing, calling your family, cooking a healthy meal, going for a walk, and prepping any other travel plans. Whatever it might look like for you, just take a day out to get organized, to get refreshed both mentally and physically. This next tip is one of the best parts about travel, and that's documenting it. Now, it doesn't matter what you're documenting it on. You could have a Polaroid, you could have an iPhone 4, you could have the best top range DSLR camera. It doesn't really matter. Just capture your time away. There is nothing better than looking back on your memories. However, this leads on to my next tip, is try to be in the moment. Now, I love to take photos, so sometimes this can be a little bit hard for me, but what I usually do is when I get to a specific landmark or attraction or a place that is so beautiful that I really want to capture, I take a moment to do that. I spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes, however long it may be, to take some photos, take some videos, and then I set aside my camera. I spend time just soaking up the place where I'm at, away from technology, away from my phone. I find this tactic gives a really good balance between capturing the moment and also just appreciating the moment for what it is. The next thing I want to talk to you about is really important. You need to be keeping track of your budget. Chances are, if you're traveling solo when you're young, your budget's a little bit tight or it's restricted in some way. I know I was there. So for your peace of mind, make sure that you're keeping an eye on your bank accounts, seeing how quickly they drop. This really helps to know how much money is realistic for you to spend during that day. There's nothing worse than overspending and heading home early. It's a crappy feeling and you don't want to be there. So make sure you're enjoying yourself but also living within your means. The next thing that's really helpful is if you're traveling to a country which speaks another language, is to learn some of that language. I'm not saying you have to be fluent. I'm not fluent in anything else other than English, unfortunately, but it is so helpful just to learn a few basics to get around. I'm talking hello, goodbye, please, thank you, where is the toilet, how do I get there, do you speak English, just the basics. And if you do this, you'll find that the locals are even more helpful because they can see that you've made an effort to learn their language. Now, sometimes the hardest part about traveling alone can be eating out by yourself. I know for me, some of the times I felt most lonely was when I didn't have anyone with me to eat dinner. It can sound really simple, but you can distract yourself during the day with all the incredible things to see. But when nighttime hits, if you're a part extrovert like me, you like to have some company. So when I didn't have anybody to eat dinner with, I always made sure I took a book with me to the restaurant. I found that this made the experience so enjoyable because my head was in another world whilst also sitting down to enjoy a meal. Trust me, eating out alone doesn't have to be weird. It can actually be one of the best times when you're traveling. Now, if you like to party, I'd really recommend you drink responsibly. I probably sound like your mum right now, but when you're traveling solo, you don't necessarily have anybody to look after you if things do go wrong. So know where your limit is, know where your threshold is when you start to get a little bit too crazy and things could go wrong. Don't cross that threshold. This is for your own safety, and I promise you're still going to have a really enjoyable time. This also links in with the fact that if you are drinking too much, bad decisions can sometimes mean walking home to the hostel alone in the dark at 3 a.m. and this is not okay, guys. Once again, I probably sound like your mum or your school teacher, but your safety is of the highest priority when you're overseas, and just using your common sense goes a long way. And you know what? This common sense rule isn't just for females. This applies to every single human being who's away from their normal environment and needs to have duty of care for themselves. When I was in Rome, I did not follow this particular rule, and I had a bit of a scary experience with a person who was trying to follow me. Thankfully, I was okay because I walked into a well-lit situation and I basically told him to F off. But this isn't always the case for everybody. Alright, here's a spoiler alert. Things are going to go wrong. Plans will change, plans won't work out how you wanted them to, something's going to happen. It's going to happen. I'm telling you that right now. But I'm telling you this so you can be prepared. Whatever the emergency situation is, whether it's missing a flight or accommodation is cancelled, you miss your tour, you know all the classic scenarios. Whatever it is, I'd encourage you to just get some perspective on the situation. I probably sound preachy and as if I haven't been through things like this, but trust me, I have. Especially when it comes to flights, I've had major delays getting to places, which means I've been at the mercy of the airline trying to sort me out, basically. I've also had accommodation fall through at the last minute. Just different things that aren't the end of the world, but in the moment feel like they are. So obviously in these times, take specific measures to try and rectify the situation. However, sometimes things are going to be out of your control. If you have resilience to keep going, especially when you're traveling solo young, I promise you can do anything. Last but not least, sometimes it can be so easy to focus on all the things that could go wrong, all the negative sides to traveling solo, but I want you to remember that what you are about to do or what you're doing right now or what you have already done is so amazing. I can probably make a whole nother video on this, but I have had the most incredible experiences traveling solo. So if you're new to the solo traveling world, I really hope that these tips have been helpful for you and that you can use them in your upcoming time away. If you want to see what it looked like when I went traveling solo for 6 months, I'll link to a video down below that I made which shows all the best things that I did when I was away. I post videos every Wednesday, so hit the subscribe button below if you haven't already. So thanks again for watching and have a great day wherever you are in the world.